gentlemen, President of the club, big announcement, please stand to your folks. Regarding invitation today is Kenneth Fromeyer, Executive Director of Greenswood Wings.
Good afternoon, everyone. God, our Creator, today we bring our hopes, concerns, and dreams about education and all people involved in this work. We give you thanks for our education system, our teachers, all who work in education, and the joy of teaching. We pray that all who are involved will use their skills wisely, feel valued, and help the students in their care to learn and grow in whatever vocation they choose, be it vocational or academic. We remember the work of teachers, men and women who train hard and now use their skills in educating others. We acknowledge their work and their efforts to share with others. We remember those who work in special needs schools, elementary schools, secondary schools, colleges, universities, vocational schools, and adult education. We pray for people training to be teachers, people considering a career in education, those working to ensure all students have a track for a meaningful profession. Help us to be aware of the needs of those responsible for teaching, education, and all the ever-changing environments we face. May we as a community be supportive and caring, offering a listening ear and open mind. As Rotarians, may we work collaboratively to address the needs in our educational community. Amen.
Leading us to the pledge today is John Hampton. Oh, Brian, okay, I'll do this. Sorry. Brian Armstrong, or Brian R. Armstrong, attorney law, sorry.
Thanks, Danny. I think we all know this one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we toast.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Brian is a practicing lawyer. What's wrong with this picture? They gave us some extra words to say, he didn't want to say it. Rotary, please introduce yourself first with guests. Then introduce your guests, give them their name and title of the organization. And guests, when you introduce us, please stand. And at the end of this, after we go back to the club there, and there's a table with Craig Sherman, who can tell you about Money's Rotary for more information. Right after that.
Testing.
If you have a guest, please come back to the mic and introduce them.
President Kevin. This is Kevin McGarrett with Projection Creative and On Request Mobile Clinic. I'd like to introduce my guest, is Patrick Boone. Patrick is visiting us today for the first time, is that right?
Correct.
Excellent. Patrick is a business development manager. He's also the lead with Outdoor Leadership Institute. Please welcome Patrick.
President Kevin, Josh Suter with the Chamber of St. Matthews. I'd like to introduce my guest, Shelley Gardner, who's with Keller Williams Louisville East and also president of my board of directors.
Delene Taylor, Executive Director, and I want to welcome our next introducer, who is a new member himself of the club, just approved this week. John Rickert is the branch manager of Southwest Funding, and he already is bringing guests. So welcome, John, and please introduce yourself.
Thanks, everybody. My guest is Alexandra Dubdan. She's a local realtor. She was Rookie of the Year at her firm last year, and she is absolutely one of the best people to sell your house or not. So.
My name is Rick Harned. My guest is Martin Brooks, the founder and director of Peace Catalyst International.
And I'm also delighted to welcome visiting Rotarian Darnell Jackson, who is the Executive Director of the Jeffersonville Housing Authority and visiting from the Jeffersonville Rotary Club.
Hello, everyone. I've been here a couple of times. Getting old to this. But I brought my grandson. James Kennedy.
My guest today is Brady Bowen, the founder of the Howland Group, president and founder of the Howland Group. Welcome, Brady. Thank you.
All right, we have a few more guests to introduce today. Vaughn Paul is a Director of Strategic Partnerships at the ACT organization. Don't worry, if you didn't do a great job on your ACT, there's no judgment here. Also, we have another new member and first-time guest, I believe, Mackenzie White, who is joining as part of our PNC corporate membership. She is a relationship manager of PNC. A guest of our speaker today is Mary Jackson, who is a senior associate at the Kentucky Council on Postsecondary Education. And we have Kevin Wilson, who is Director of Special Projects, I'm told, at the Kentucky College of Art and Design. Welcome, Kevin. Did we miss anyone?
Just one comment. Thank you, Rick Smith. There's a lot of guests today. Rich is here, everything you said. We have several Rotarians in the spotlight this week. Rotarians Rebecca Brigham, Director, and Louis Straub were interviewed for WWE and Wade Stories about Wilford. This is the week of events being organized by many community partners to help cover medical bills and other costs of recovery for Officer Nick Wills, who was injured in a mass shooting at the Old National Bank. When he stepped out and went right in front where he couldn't see through the window, they could see it was crazy. Louis will also be on WAGS Great Day Live tomorrow at 10 a.m. So mark your calendar. Please read this week's Spark newsletter for information about the many events taking place in ways you can participate. Congratulations to Laurie Bonner for being one of the leaders of the class of 2024. Our sponsors, Syrian refugee family, arrived yesterday morning. I'd like to welcome Mary Ellen Harder, who was a big part of that, to the podium to share us about this project.
Yesterday, 6 Rotarians were at the airport, and Alex Novak told me you tried to come. Couldn't find a place to park. Our family from Syria of 10 members. Mother and father, 2 adult sons, and then 6 between the ages of 18 and 5. First of all, I have to say, we have a fabulous team of 13 individuals in this club. Several are here, Kathy, Ben, and others, who have been vetted so that they will be available to work with these families. And we were setting up not an apartment as we usually do, but a 5-bedroom house. And so for the last several days, that's where we've been. We stocked groceries, and one of our members prepared a hot meal upon their arrival. So that's how we get started. And then we will accompany this family over a 3-month period to support them, not to do for them. And we will help them towards self-sufficiency. We are a partner with Kentucky Refugee Ministries, which does the case management, gets the kids registered for school, medical, all those things. But we are the human connection, and it's a privilege to do this. I want to thank all of you in the club who donated furniture, household goods, and gift cards. This made a terrific difference. So we are very proud of this club for setting up to do this important work in refugee reform. Thank you all.
invite Morris Scott Payne, President of Chicago Design, to introduce our speaker. I also just want to mention that the cost of Chicago Garden Design is about 6 years old. It's soon to be accredited, which is very, very short time.
Well, what a great opportunity to talk about one of my favorite people. Are you scared that you giving the opportunity to talk about your favorite? What can I say? To know Dr. Citizens to love him. This man is an incredibly active citizen in our midst here in the world of Kentucky. I'm very proud to say that Kentucky College of Art and Design, Rick's work with us in many different ways. Originally part of the leadership team, he went on to better things and is now our vice chair of our board. So we work with Rick in many ways, and I'm delighted to introduce him a little bit today. So let me talk a little bit about the man and his credentials. He has a long interest in education, not just educating his own educational journey, but his interest in young people in Kentucky is evident in everything that he does, every role that he has held. Rick has a BA in Broadcasting and Communication. He has a master's in Business Administration. He has a master's in Philanthropic Studies. And more recently, he has completed a PhD in higher education, PhD in higher education. And this is extremely relevant to what he's going to talk to today. The other thing about Rick is that he's very active on boards locally. He's part of the Kentucky Dairy Festival Board, Leadership Renewables Board, and of course, Kentucky College of Art and Design, and others. He has, in 2005, he was voted an outstanding citizen, one of Georgia's outstanding citizens. And I think that's a moniker that probably will follow Rick throughout his career. He's worked as the CEO of United Way in Ross County. He was a special advisor to North Pennsylvania Regional College. And his background has led him to his current role. And I think I'd like to welcome Rick to the podium to talk to his current position with the Council for Postsecondary Education. So please welcome.
First, let me do this thing. The doctor said it's okay, so. Well, it's great to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Rotary and guests. I was speaking to President Kevin a while back. I've worked in the Rotary for more than 30 years, which is hard to believe because I'm really only 31. So, bad joke. You'll hear more bad jokes too. I'm honored to be here with you to bring an update on the changing needs in workforce education in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Those states that are embracing change are those that are winning. Kentucky has a great leader in the Council for Postsecondary Education, Dr. Aaron Thompson, who last year, many of you may have had an opportunity to hear from him and give an update on what the CPD is doing. I'll touch on just a little bit of that. We're navigating, changing environments. Technology is changing everything. It's changing the type of workers that we need. It's changing the type of jobs that we have. All of it. So, I'm going to speak about that. But first, I know we're here to discuss a very serious matter, but before we dive into the world of workforce education, I'm going to start with a little light. Now, I know it's going to be hard to believe, but people think that I'm serious all the time. But I do have a comical side. I have a bit of a sense of humor. They accuse me of being a little straight laced, but I'm going to try my hand at a medium. Now, this is hilarious, okay? All right, here we go. You ready for a joke? Okay, keeping the theme of workforce and education, put your thinking hats on. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? I made this up myself. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. No, Kentucky, like many other states, is experiencing remarkable transformation in the workforce. Technology, again, just like I said, it's really shifting the industry landscape. It's evolving the type of work, jobs that we have available to us right now. We all hear about AI and how that's changing things. So that is changing the need for our workers. We need a more skilled workforce, more technically skilled workforce. Manual labor is not necessarily something that we're looking for now. I'll talk more about that here in just a minute. In education, we're facing, I know we have a lot of educators here, we're facing a perfect storm in education. We have reduced funding, failing perceptions, DEI challenges, access to equitable education, lots of things going on right now. Education and the policy behind education is in the news, so we're going to hear these things going on. In this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the changing needs of workforce education. I'll reference Kentucky a lot, but you can remove Kentucky and put in just about any other state, but most of us are all dealing with the same types of issues and challenges. All right. Yeah, it's pretty new. So just a little bit about the department. My department is the External Relations and Economic Partnership. So basically, this department was formed about a year ago. Mary Jackson is here with me. She is joining me in that work. It's basically our job to talk about the value of higher education. We do things such as this. We work with employers, we work with the colleges, making sure that our students are graduating, not just graduating, but also walking into having the experience to walk into a meaningful paying job. So we want to make sure that our students are staying here in Kentucky, and hopefully our employers are giving them opportunities to stay in Kentucky and have a meaningful job, meaningful career. A little bit about me first. I call myself a Kentuckian. I'm a military brat. My father retired in Kentucky back in 1976. You can see me, I think that's my first day of school on the far left there. You can see how snazzy dresser I've always been. Yeah. Exactly. I was going to wear those shorts today, but very well with that. And you see me there. The picture on the far right, I guess your left, is Fern Creek High School, Fern Creek Elementary School, circa 1976. That is my 6th grade picture. I'm going to reference that. So if you take a look at that, you'll see it again, but I'm going to reference that here in a minute. As I said, when we moved to Louisville, it was back in 1976. So if you lived here at that time, how many of you all know what was going on in the education system around 1976? So busing was going on. So we moved to Fern Creek, and at that time we were one of very few African American families living in Fern Creek. So while my military time, where my father took us around the country, mostly in the southern states, it wasn't until we moved to Kentucky that I personally was called out of my name more times than I care to remember. It was a difficult start because, again, we were one of the few African Americans living in that community. So had rocks thrown at us, had bottles thrown at us, me and my 3 brothers. It wasn't a great start, but it was a great ending, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. That is actually an actual picture of ours from the Courier Journal of some of the things happening in Louisville during that time period. My parents, that's my family there. Many of y'all might know my oldest brother, Barnes Smith, who spent many years on WDRB television, so respected journalist, and my other brothers there in the middle, my parents. We lived literally right across the street from the high school. I didn't realize at the time that they did that so they could walk us to school and make sure that we got to school safely, so we had access to education. So that's very important, and I appreciate not only my parents, but those that really leaned in and helped me and my brothers when we navigated that violent time. Fern Creek High School was a wonderful place. They embraced me. The gentleman on your left there, his name is Big Willie, affectionately Big Willie, that's what we call him. See, Big Willie was actually, his title was the manager, but at Fern Creek at that time, there were no African American, very few African American students, there were very few African American faculty or staff. But Big Willie and mostly the ladies in the lunchroom were the black faces that we had the opportunity to see. Now, his title was janitor. Big Willie was much more than that. He was security guard, he was mentor, he was friend, he was father, and believe me, he was disciplinarian because we didn't want to get out of line with Big Willie. He's not a small man, so he didn't while my road starting at Fern Creek was difficult, the road ended quite well for me and my brother. I had the good fortune in 2009 to be inducted in the Hall of Fame at Fern Creek. And I say that not to brag or anything, I say that to say that when we as a community gather around people, no matter where they start from, their ending can be good. Fern Creek was a wonderful place for me. At the start of my education, President Payne read through some of my academic accomplishments, but I credit Fern Creek and my parents for allowing me the blessing to be able to do that, and many mentors like me would. So that's the class that I told you about. You see me with my attempt at making an afro there in the second row. You see the other students there, the students of color specifically. Many times those students, they had to catch the bus at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. So by the time they got to school, what can you expect? They're a little tired. Some of them acted out. I mean, I'm a little cranky when I had to take my car somewhere at 7 o'clock this morning. I was in a really bad mood at 6 o'clock this morning, and I'm a grown man. So you can imagine a child riding the bus that long. So when they got to school, it was a little difficult for them. So keep that in mind as we think about, everyone starts in a different place during their career. These students, because oftentimes they got in trouble, they were sit out of class. So what does that do? Well, that allows them not to get the education that they need. So instead of embracing those who may need a little bit different, I think we're getting better now, and I'm going to talk about things that we're putting in place to help students who start at a different place. A little bit about Kentucky. You can see there, and I'm not going to go through all the slides. I'll put them up. As you can see there in Kentucky, we've got the demographic here. We have roughly 4.5 million citizens. You can see the demographic makeup: 83% white, 9% black, Hispanic, 4%. I say that, kind of keep that in mind, because we'll talk about provisions that the Council of Post-Secondary Education is putting in place right now to help all of our citizens be able to navigate their post-secondary post-secondary education. The slide here, the Kentucky Council on Education and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, they've got a bold goal of having 60% of the population having a post-secondary degree by the year 2030. That is a bold goal because given the thing that called COVID that happened not too long ago, it really slowed things down. But you can see our progression there. Even during COVID time, where we get to 3.3% growth and 5% growth, we continue to grow. We continue the progression towards that 60% goal by 2030. So I can tell you right now, I'm happy to report that we're at 55% of adults having a post-secondary degree right now. And much in large part to our schools like the University of Louisville. We've got so many fine schools in Louisville, the Kentucky College of Art and Design, Spalding University, Bellevue University, Simmons College, just to name a few of them. All of them have measures in place to help increase their college going, and not only increase the college going, but also help their students stay. And I'll talk about an unmet needs study that you'll hear more about here in just a minute. But again, we're at 55% right now, moving towards that 60% goal. As I said, Kentucky certainly has a workforce crisis. If you are an employer, if you're in the business of hiring people, you know it's very challenging right now. And then when you do find employees, it's difficult to get employees that are skilled in such a way to help them come right into your business and make a meaningful difference. Well, part of what our post-secondary institution's job is, and I failed to mention Jefferson Community College doing an outstanding job of training people for our jobs in the future. So as your employers are having difficulty finding employees, we're working on the back end and working in collaboration with you to help make sure that that students are trained so when they get out, they can more quickly contribute to your company. We've got shortages in many areas. I'm going to run through that list here in a minute, but specifically in healthcare, that's one place that you don't want to go to the emergency department and you see it closed because of no employees. You don't want that to happen. Education is another one. I heard Superintendent Marty Polio talking just earlier today as Jefferson County Schools getting ready to start. We've got a teacher shortage. We have a teacher shortage not only in the education side, but in our post-secondary sector as well. So there are lots of things that are going on right now to get more people involved and interested in the teaching profession.
Technology.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. All right, so technology is really, as I said before, is replacing the need for manual labor when employers are looking for a skill set in employees. So a recent study showed that the number one attribute that an employer is looking for when trying to find an employee is communication, so communication skills, followed by teamwork, sales and customer service, leadership and problem-solving skills. Now, you can see to the far left, I guess your far right over here, that those motor skills and things of that nature, the manual skills, they're declining in their significance. So employers aren't quite looking for those skills right now. While they're still important, you can see how they rank. I think I can hardly see it there. Strength and coordination is actually the 19th of the top 19 of the skills that employers are looking for. I'm going to stay back here. Now this is what we think of typically when we think about a automotive assembly line. We have folks on the line manually putting parts together. Well, pictures like that are being replaced with pictures like this now. So if you go to Toyota or Ford or some of our automakers, this is what you're seeing. What we have to prepare for in the post-secondary sector is someone needs to operate those robotics. Someone needs to operate that technology. So we're training employees now, not just how to put the car together, but how to operate and service the robotic technology that's putting the car together. And someone who's overseeing all that. So the skill set's different. So when I showed you that list of top 19, I think you can better understand why now we're looking at technology skills and those cognitive skills that are more important than the manual skills. Look familiar? Well, that's a Walmart now. So if you go to Walmart, most Walmarts, Walmart slowed it down a little bit, but by the end of last year, they were supposed to completely automate all their stores. But due to pushback and some challenges, supply demand challenges, they slowed it down. So you still see more cashiers. But very soon, Walmart and other types of big box stores are going to be going total automotive or total automatic, where you will not see a cashier. But here's the challenge here. While the cashier positions may be going away, who's operating those? Who's servicing that equipment? There's still a need for employees. It's, again, just the type of role that they have is changing. One of my favorite movies there, I, Robot. That seemed like it was so far away long ago, back in 2004 when we saw that. But that's happening right now. You've got robots that are serving in roles such as this. You've got robots right now that are driving big rigs, right now. That's happening. You don't hear a lot about it, but you'll see them out there. A lot of our cars are self-driven cars. They park themselves now. So again, technology is changing not only how we work but how we live. Everyone has a cell phone. What's the first thing? I know when I'm leaving from here to go back to my house, I put my navigation on. Not that I don't know how to get there, but I want to find out where the potholes are. And depending on how late I am, where the police are, because I want to make sure that I'm following. You know what I'm talking about. Netflix. Most of us have Netflix or some type of streaming service. Well, it's not a coincidence that when you go to your Netflix queue, it's already predicting the type of movie that you want. It's machine learning. So it's learning your viewing habits. So it's kind of scary, but that's what AI is doing. So now, if I like horror movies, I open up my Netflix, I've got all this list of horror movies and things that are out there. I think, oh wow, what a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Netflix is watching what you're doing. These technologies, they're using technology to predict the types of movies that you will like. Take a look at this. This is actually a survey done that showed that the public is in denial that technology will actually impact them. You can see that 18 or 16% and 52% said that technology probably won't impact them. Well, I just showed you that technology is impacting all of us, so the public's in denial. While our employers are starting to embrace that, typically people are thinking, well, technology's out there, but it's not going to impact me. Well, it absolutely is impacting us. Those who are most impacted are actually right now Hispanic and Black workers. Of the primary positions that are at risk of automation right now, you can look at that. 11 of the 30 jobs that are employed by African Americans are at risk of being eliminated. There's 13 occupations at risk of being eliminated that are currently occupied primarily by Hispanic. So as post-secondary sector, we're preparing, especially embracing those communities to give them the skills that they need to find other types of employment. These, and I'll flip through these slides. How am I doing my time here, Am I running out already? 15 minutes, okay. So I'm going to flip through these quickly. But what you see here, these are the top positions that are currently occupied by African Americans, and also, if you match these up with the top positions that are being at risk for automation, they're almost identical. So nursing assistant, personal care aides, cashiers, as I just showed you in Walmart, customer service rep, these type of positions are slowly going away. And it's creating the perfect storm because these are also the type of positions that people of color typically occupy. They're lower wage jobs that are going away, and we have to prepare those folks that are occupying those jobs for additional other types of work. 99% of the jobs of the future will be, will require some type of automation and require some sort of college education, some sort of post-secondary degree. And in my getting started here with my comedy, I forgot to inform you that the kind of definition of a post-secondary degree, because sometimes people think, well, I'm not college material. I absolutely hate it when people say, so-and-so is not college material. Any education after high school is post-secondary. So it could be a workforce certification from our community college. It could be any 2-year degree, associate degree. It could be, again, this certification. A CDL is post-secondary. All the way up to a doctorate. Anything after that is a post-secondary degree. So everyone, eliminate that from your vocabulary. So-and-so is not college material, because everyone is college material. Everyone may not be 4-year at traditional college path, but everyone needs some sort of training to prepare for the job in the future. This is real quick. I know this is a busy slide. We've got great data in Kentucky. We have something called the KY Stats, Kentucky Stats. They provide information to us to help predict as much as we can where the jobs are needed, where the jobs are being eliminated. This is the slide I had them put together that actually showed me looking at the I-65 corridor south, the type of positions that are in need and what type of education. So this is the information that folks like Mary are looking at right now to help determine, okay, let's inform our colleges that if they're not offering this curriculum, they may want to consider this because our stats are showing us that we're going to need more of this position or that position. So just know that all the information, all the work that we're doing is certainly down here. I said before that higher education, really being the perception of higher education is being questioned by the general public. There was a study that just came out just earlier this month. It was a Gallup study that showed that, looking at that, people's perception of the value of higher education is going down. Back in 2015, 57% of our population said that, well, yes, post-secondary degree, a college education is needed. We need to do this. And you can see 2018 went down a little bit. But look where we are right now. 36% of the population see the value of a post-secondary degree. So they're not getting that message that I'm talking to you all about right now, because you're getting it. That when we talk about post-secondary, it's not just saying go get a 4-year degree. It's saying go get some certification or training that you're needing to operate some of the jobs, technology in the jobs of the future. This is a slide, this is a glimpse of what's going on in Kentucky right now. Undergraduate enrollment is down. It's down 16%. Our public university, that's our 4 years, is down 12%. And our KCTCS system, which Jefferson Community College is a part of the 16 college community college system, is down 28%. We are optimistic that it's starting to go back up again, so hopefully if I come back next year, I'll bring another great joke, I promise you, that we'll see that the numbers are starting to go up. That's where we're sitting right now. This is the demographic makeup of the workforce in Kentucky. I showed you the population earlier, just so you can see kind of what that workforce is, how it's comprised. The goals of my office and the Council of Post-Secondary Education is to increase the percentage of population with a credential. Again, that's that 60 by 30 goal that I mentioned. Reduce the percentage of people living in poverty. We want to make sure that people are graduating, they're getting a job, and that helps not only increase their likelihood for success, but also has an impact on their family. If I'm a parent and my child sees me going to college, it's more likely they will also strive to do that type of thing as well. And also we want to strengthen our workforce participation rate. I talked about the Kentucky Well, I mentioned that we're looking right now at the fields or sectors that are most in need of growth in Kentucky. You can see them there. This is through the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board, which I have the pleasure of sitting on. The advanced manufacturing is one area we hear a lot about, the technology, the EV plants that are coming to Kentucky. That's all part of that. Business and IT, construction, healthcare, transportation, and logistics. Now, added in this, there's discussion going on right now. I mentioned that there's a need for educators. And we'll see education will be added to this. Right now, most likely it will come under the health banner, or probably most likely will be healthcare/education. Last year, the Kentucky Council on Education released a new campaign. It's called the Higher Education Matters. They came along with a strategic plan to help chart us to the kind of our roadmap that we're using to get to that 60% by 2030. I won't have time to go through the details of that right now, but you can go to our to the CPE website and you can download the strategic agenda, and it talks about some of the measures, some of the things that we're doing right now to help increase the college going rate. The overall objective there was reduce financial barriers to college enrollment and completion. I'm going to talk about it here in a second as I wrap up. We just released a new report that talks about the barriers of a post-secondary degree. But they're not just academic barriers. If you think about why people may not go to college, it may be transportation. You can't go to school if you don't have a car. You can't go to school if you want to go online but you don't have Wi-Fi or a good computer. So this study, which again you can access to our website, lists all the different things that are barriers for our students right now. And most importantly, as it's listing those things, it talks about what the colleges are doing to help remove the barriers. This is the enrollment trends by by ethnicity and by age. You'll see how it's broken down there. And I know I'm going kind of fast and my time's running out. I want to get to the last couple of slides. What our colleges are doing in Kentucky that is an outstanding job. They're providing more institutional aid to our students right now. Everyone's familiar with FAFSA. There's a lot of work going on right now to make it easier to navigate a FAFSA. Or our colleges, including the University of Louisville, are doing lots of things to help supplement the financial aid, the federal money that students are getting. They're also providing institutional aid, because if I'm a student and I get, I'm blessed to get a nice federal scholarship or some financial aid, and say it's $8,000, but it costs me $12,000 and I don't have that makeup, well, then I probably still can't go. But what the colleges are doing to help narrow that gap and add additional money to the students so they can go on to school. The unmet need study that I mentioned here just a minute ago, 70% of first-time degree-seeking students say they have some sort of unmet need. Again, the unmet need could be transportation. It could be child care. It could be, again, the technology or whatever it is that's a barrier for them going to school. So what this report does, and you see the listing of it down there, it lists all those different things that we identified through this very comprehensive study that the Council of Postsecondary Education did with the Carey-Wise stats. Higher education matters. One of the areas that I'm responsible for and Mary works in is the value of higher education. So hopefully, if you're not familiar with that slogan, higher education matters, we've got a marketing campaign that's going right now. It's television, it's print, it's speaking engagement, things of that nature to talk about the value of a post-secondary degree. So again, we've got lots of things that we're doing our jobs right, and if it's not doing it right, it's Mary's fault, it's not mine. But we're doing the best we can to get the word out. But we need your help. We need you all talking about the value of higher education. We need you talking about changing the narrative about, I'm not college material. If you hear that, say, yes, you are. And then explain to them what a post-secondary degree is and why it's important. There's just more information about the higher education marketing campaign. Last slide here. CPE produces lots of different information. This is one way that you can access. If there's any type of social media out there, we're on it, except for Twitter. You can't do that one anymore. But everything else we're on. And finally, there's this podcast called Higher Education Matters that some guy named Rick Smith hosts, Mary's producer. If you're not listening to this podcast, I encourage you to do so, because not only we're tracking our listeners, really that really dictates whether we're going to continue the show. So we need more people listening to this program, giving us ideas. Mary's right here, she's our producer. If you got an idea about something dealing with education, you think you want to learn more, let Mary know, give me a call. We'll make sure that we highlight the professional, the appropriate person in the state of Kentucky to talk about that. So with that, I think my time is up. I appreciate your listening, and if you have any questions, I'll be around a little bit after Rotary's over with, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Mike over there, if you'd like to ask a question. I'd just like to mention one thing, to hear where he started from, it was a very powerful, impressive presentation. This man has come a long way, he's very successful. And I want to give congratulations to what he did.
Rick, we've got you lined up back here. So, one, thank you for coming. It's just, All right. We're good. want to thank you. This is great. One of our own Rotarians comes and gives this kind of presentation. This is kind of members we like, so thank you for doing that. I think you know that our club does a Rotary Honors Scholars Program, and so we work with the kids at Western Iroquois High School. And you may or may, I think you know, Evolve 502, their application to Jefferson, I think it takes 2 minutes for the kids to fill out, and then Evolve picks that up. That's something that maybe you guys want to look at, what Evolve is doing to help making that application to Jefferson better. Also think, I want you to confirm that the reason, not the reason for a drop in going to school is inversely related to the economy. When the economy is good, people work, and they don't have the foresight to see that it's better for them to maybe, and that's why going to Jefferson or any of the community colleges and only taking 9 hours and working, hitting both ends works well. But what kind of message can we send when we're talking to our kids that would be helpful?
I think one thing we can say is that as we talk about the value of a post-secondary degree, it kind of explains, I said, what that means. But also, just about every student in Kentucky, they can go get start getting their associate degree at JCCC, at Jefferson County Community College. If they start there, then they've got bridge programs to go to other colleges, like Kentucky College of Art and Design, or like the University of Louisville, or like Bellevue, and some of those other schools. There are a range of articulation agreements that are in place with the community college to help that bridge transition to a 4-year degree if the student wants to do so. And also, just to stress that, again, it's not just, again, that 4-year degree that they can go get their CDL. They can go get a license to be a barber or a beautician or esthetician, whatever it is. So there's some type of career out there for everyone, but I think we all need to be talking about that to our young folks. And our adult learners as well. We have a lot of new Americans who are coming into our communities to be able to say, okay, here's a way that you can get the training and be able to point them through those conduits to their post-secondary degree.
And we do that a lot at both Western and Iroquois, and they do have a lot of new Americans coming through that program. I just heard you also say that you have a podcast about affordability. How can somebody send that to Deline to send to us to get it to our kids at these 2 schools? That's one. And then I had another question, and I'm old and I forget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and speaking to us today instead of enjoying the meeting with us.
Absolutely.
My name is Roland Bonnick. My question is, certainly I understand the need for additional, am I doing that? I think so. So I understand the need for additional education beyond high school to prepare yourself for a career. But what I don't understand is why I should be encouraging that many more, let me phrase that. When I read about all the outcomes of our high school programs in Jefferson County in particular, why would I encourage a lot of those students to go to college versus some kind of training? Because from when I'm reading, they're not learning to read.
Right. Well, I think you've heard both. Because as I said before, I'll say it, as many times as I can, 4-year college is not for everyone. But some sort of post-secondary credential is. So it could be workforce training. What happens right now, I'm trying to get a plumber. If anyone knows one, please send them our way. It's very difficult to get someone in the trades. But our community colleges are training people, certifying people, giving them the training they need to be able to operate in those trades. So I think what we do is we encourage everyone to seek some sort of training, if it's workforce or if it's academic.
I have something to add to that. So in Kentucky, and I think we all need to do a better job of messaging about these different opportunities. So we have a two-year scholarship called the Work Ready Scholarship, where there are a plethora of different certifications and associate degrees that you can receive for free. And a lot of people don't know that. We need to demystify our messaging and get this information out there to people so they're aware.
Those sectors I showed, those top 5 sectors, if anyone wants to have a career in any of those top 5 sectors, they can go for school virtually free, if not absolutely free.
Hey, Rick, Tracy Holiday. You had that chart that showed what employers want, teamwork, communication, leadership. What's being done curriculum-wise in any post-secondary institution to address those issues? It occurs to me that those are things that you typically will probably get some training in a 4-year degree. But as I'm saying, not everybody's going to get a 4-year degree.
Absolutely. I think we've got several things going on. We've got something called the graduate profile that's work being done at CPE right now to help identify what those, we used to call them soft skills, what we call more essential skills now, to really focus on those essential skills. So not only are our students in their curriculum, are they getting academic rigor that they need, but also getting training on those other things like communication and teamwork and customer service, things that many places are kind of hard to find now. But we're working with our colleges to be able to provide those. And I've been doing this type of stuff for, gosh, almost 40 years now. And you know, most of my career is actually in healthcare. I was a television user in healthcare. Never before have I seen an environment now where our employers and our post-secondary sector are more willing to work together. I've sit on many different statewide committees and things of this nature right now, where they're working together to help identify, you know, the workforce needs. Because everyone sees that, hey, if we don't work together, then we're going to have a larger problem.
Thank you, Rick, so much for presenting today. I am Kathy Sanders, and I have a question. Since one of the largest sectors of employment here in Jefferson County are nonprofits. And I'm curious in terms of partnerships, as you're working with industries, has there been a specific outreach to some of those unique needs of nonprofits who do need actually a lot of those folks who don't need that, might not need that 4-year college degree, but also uniqueness in administration and fundraising. And I'm curious if, because we're such a large sector of employers, what outreach and conversations are happening on that level?
Yeah, that's something, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something I'm not touching, okay. Okay. That is a sector that we're certainly focusing on. I know I work closely with United Way, with Urban League, with some of our other great nonprofits that we have, the Boys and Girls Club, to make sure that, you know, we've got, actually it's a project that Mary's leading. It's an experiential learning, trying to get every student some type of workforce training before they graduate. So we're getting interns that that are willing to work at some of these nonprofits. So it's, for them, oftentimes it's free or very reduced price labor. For our students, it's great training. So when they do get out, they can either choose to work at the nonprofit or get a job elsewhere with some, you know, really meaningful skills that they're requiring. So I love to explore more with you because I've got myself and my colleagues, that's something that we're very much aware of and would love to partner with you even more.
Hello, Rick.
Uh-oh.
Good to see you. Kevin Fields, CEO at the Global Center Community Center. I did all the previous thank yous for excellent presentation. You touched on a lot that's kind of sparked my curiosity. So I have a question. As you were talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and I'll confess that in the past 2 weeks, my life has been transformed, revolutionized by being introduced to certain apps. And seeing that happen and unfold, it, as you pointed out, is going to touch every industry known to man in a revolutionary way. And I'm not going to get into the details, but I'm curious on how you perceive it affecting post-secondary education, because every business practice that we know of is going to become less and less relevant as AI takes hold, and so such will be the case with post-secondary education. So are we thinking forward about how that's going to change the paradigm of post-secondary education, artificial intelligence?
Oh, thank you, Kevin. It absolutely is. And I can say just yesterday, our president was meeting with all of the 4-year college presidents and the president of the community college system. And AI was actually the topic of the conversation. Because AI is going to impact us in so many different ways. Looking at academic integrity, AI now can write a paper for you. Now that's not quite fair to some student who's staying up all night and writing a paper, and then someone else comes in with a paper that's written by AI and get the same grade or better grade. So our colleges right now are paying a A lot of it's into helping identify what is written by a person versus what's written by some artificial intelligence. So that's one way. But also training people how to use this new artificial intelligence. Because again, there has to be a partnership now. As technology changes our workforce, we're partnering with the robotics and partnering with the technology to work together. I'm blanking on the exact name for that right now, but there's a name in which we do that, and that's something that we're integrating into all of our courses of study in our colleges.
Rick, thank you very much for your presentation. Certainly enjoyed it. I was a circuit judge for a number of years, and as such, I dealt a lot with criminal defendants, committed all kinds of crimes. And it was my observation, as you may know, after every plea agreement or sentencing trial, etc., there was a background report prepared for the judges to decide what type of sentence to impose. So I had the experience of reading a lot about these criminal defendants, and many of them, the large majority, I'd say, come from our most marginalized homes, both black and white. People who come from backgrounds with drug-addicted parents, for example, or people with no education, and had no kind of role models to follow in their communities. So my question is the council or somebody else here kind of reaching down into the higher education, the high school and middle school area to address this, because these are the folks with the most limited skills and the most limited motivation, shall we say, to follow the path. And I don't want to go on and on, but you know, as our society changes and becomes more technologically advanced, then the gap between people with those skills and the kind of skills that you need in order to participate in the economy grows. So I'm just wondering whether you address that particular area of need.
No, first, thank you for asking the question, and let me put it out there. We don't know each other, so if anyone in your previous world looks like me, it's probably my brother. But anyway, actually, as President Thompson created my division that Mary and I work in, he also created a K-12 division. It's led by Dr. Amanda Ellis, and that's exactly the work that she's doing. So she's working with not just the Jefferson County school system, but school systems across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, meeting with the superintendents, meeting with the staff, making sure they've got curriculums and removing barriers that some students may have. We do a lot of work in DEI, and when we talk about DEI, we're not just talking about race. We're talking about folks who are coming from rural areas. In Kentucky, we've got large rural area populations that may not have access to technology or access to the same education. So by the time they're getting to school, their starting place may be a little bit different. So how do we remove the barriers to make sure that everyone has an equal playing field once they get to college? So we've got things that are in place, and Dr. Ellis and her group are really working with our college, with our high schools right now to remove the barriers and then put the provisions in place so those students can succeed once they get to college. And I'd love to chat with you more, any other ideas, because this is something, again, this is new. And the Council on Postsecondary Education doesn't have all the answers. We have a great leader in Dr. Thompson. We've got great folks that are working there, but we can't do it all ourselves. That's why it's so important that we have these discussions with everyone else so everyone's carrying the message.
I'll say this, there are a couple of federal grants that are on the ground, and some of them are housed in the Council on Postsecondary Education. One of them is Europe, Kentucky. That's the Kentucky State grant, which is a grant in far west Kentucky, and then Berea College, that's the federal grant. Eastern Kentucky, and they do those sorts of things where they work directly with low-income, rural students and families to help them transition to post-secondary.
I got one quick comment question. I read this morning that there's 67,000 job shortages as of 2030 in the semiconductor industry. And obviously, we're talking about insourcing, domestically sourcing semiconductors. I'm assuming that number is projected based on today's reality. But I want to get some sense from Rick how he feels the economy, how efficient is it when they see a big change in the economy. How can they react to sort of close some of that gap?
If you recall, the slide I put up there real quickly was a very dense slide, a lot of data on there. I referenced the KY stats. That's exactly the type of work we're doing. To the extent that we can, that's our crystal ball. So we're looking at what the data is showing us on positions and industry and sectors that are most in need. And we're working with, every college, especially our community colleges, their curriculum really needs to be put together to help address the needs in that particular community. So one community may look very different than the other community. So we're working with the colleges, making sure they have the data so they can form their decision on the curriculum and training that they're offering. Thank you all.
Thank you for keeping it there. We are, a donation is made in your name to the Rotary Club of Louisville West Louisville Housing Initiative, so thanks for that. Our door prize, it's already been chosen, by the way. It was done on
Yes.
It's a ticket to our Rotary picnic with ponies and puppies on September 9th, 11 to 1, at Willow Hole Farm in Simpsonville, Kentucky. The Kentucky Humane Society's 42-acre farm is the home to about 30 horses. Join us for equine demonstrations, a tour of the farm, time with some cake, big Humane Society puppies, and a picnic with your fellow Rotarians and their families for King's Leaf Barbecue. See details in Sparks. Our scheduled speaker next week is Dr. Will Farmer, DVM, the Equine Medical Director of Churchill Downs. How about, anybody want to read this? How about the number ending in 1838? Woohoo! Hey, Walt, all right,
We rigged that, thanks, Rick.
well done, Walt, on Friday. But be sure to register by noon on Monday for next week's speech, next week's talk. And guests, again, please meet with Craig Sherman in the next room. He'll be in the next room at the end of this. He had a brief overview of the protocol. Meeting adjourned.